we are currently experiencing an unprecedented revocation of our civil rights. And the answer is absolutely not to just throw up our hands and let the Republican Party continue to go full Joker mode. Are you kidding me?
You're a bunch of pussies.
Hi friends! Happy Independence Day, right? I can't pretend to know where you, whoever you are watching this video, lean in terms of politics, but hopefully we can at least agree that like democracy and civil liberties, that like these are good things, especially on god dang Independence Day. That said, we are backsliding like crazy right now. I think the obvious irony there is Roe v. Wade being overturned and then Obergefell, Griswold, and Lawrence all being mentioned in the decision, but it actually gets way scarier than that, like the EPA ruling, which is obviously bad for environmental reasons, but it also sets a precedent that the heads of executive departments like agriculture and housing and education would have to run all of their policy decisions by Congress. Oh, speaking of, as I'm filming this, the court is hearing Moore v. Harper, which is a case about gerrymandering. It comes from North Carolina, a state that is definitely no stranger to voter suppression. They had a law struck down in 2016 for targeting black voters with, and I quote, almost surgical precision. And then, if I recall correctly, whoa, they put in another voting law in 2018 that was struck down in 2021, if you want to take a guess why. Point is, there is a considerable chance that the Supreme Court rules that state courts don't have the right to strike down gerrymandered congressional maps, even if they violate the state constitution, even if they involve tossing out ballots for arbitrary reasons, no power to overturn them so long as the legislature approves of them. Cameron? Yes, Cameron? Wouldn't that mean that the party currently in office in those states would then have free reign to rig future elections to keep the party in power indefinitely? Huh, I guess it would, wouldn't it? And that's like, not democracy. It's like not how democracy works. I've been seeing two primary responses to this. The first is,
look, I know things are bad right now, but this is America. We have fundamental rights and our institutions are strong. Things will sort themselves out.
But no. There's this idea that society naturally trends toward liberty and justice for all, but that is just not the case. By multiple different metrics, the number of democratic free countries has been declining for at least 15 years. Like, this is not a guarantee.
Exactly. We're rapidly barreling toward full-blown authoritarian theocracy. And what? You just want me to vote blue no matter who? Just hope that the Biden administration suddenly decides to come around?
And like, okay, that is closer to how I've been feeling. When the Republican Party keeps moving to the right, the Democrats can move more and more toward the center and still be considered the lesser evil. But like, I guess maybe we is like more just the radicals, because like I imagine that CNN hasn't been talking about this for the last 3 years, but like leftists, we knew this was going to happen. By the general election, we knew that we were electing a candidate that was going to be useless in the face of impending fascism, and people are losing faith in the party. The question is, what do we do now? And the answer is absolutely not to just throw up our hands and let the Republican Party continue to go full Joker mode. Are you kidding me? We are currently experiencing an unprecedented revocation of our civil rights, and in response, what? Nancy Pelosi reads a poem, and House Democrats sing God Bless America in front of the Supreme Court, and don't even get me started on Kamala and Joe pretending that they're completely helpless. I know! The majority of Democrat leadership makes me want to pull all of my hair out. But let's keep things in perspective. This would have been so much worse if Trump got a second term. I've been watching the January 6th hearings, which I will probably make a video about soon because, like, they're wild and pretty much no one I know has been watching them.
Ms. Hutchinson reported that the meeting in the West Wing was unhinged.
I first noticed there was ketchup dripping down the wall, and there's a shattered porcelain plate.
Flynn screamed at me that I was a quitter and everything. He kept on standing up and turning around and screaming at me. I yelled back, either come over or sit your effing ass back down.
The president was extremely angry and had thrown his lunch against the wall.
Put it another way, you're a bunch of pussies.
But there are two big takeaways that I've gotten. The first is that the only things standing between the Republican Party and, let's not sugarcoat it, subverting democracy were a few individuals. And what great patriots they are, sure. But you put others in their place, everything could have gone exactly according to plan. Our institutions didn't save us. This country was built on a set of gentlemen's agreements and the assumption that regardless of political differences, everyone in the government would want to preserve democracy. But that's just not the case. You get enough people in DC who are anti-democracy, and we do not have the fail-safes for that. The system will just fall apart. But that brings me to my second takeaway. In light of all of the lawsuits and all of the allegations leading up to and following January 6th, they did rigorous investigation, and it turns out that we actually do have very secure and fair elections. That is to say, every vote cast gets counted with remarkable accuracy. However, the Republican Party, who I don't know if you've noticed are openly anti-democracy, has a vested interest in voter suppression. Not only have they demonstrated this repeatedly, and if you look at which areas of the US have had the greatest degree of Postal Service intervention compared to which areas voted blue in the 2016 election, interesting.
This proposed order directs the Secretary of Defense to seize voting machines, quote, effective immediately. Under the order, President Trump would appoint a special counsel and then charge people with crimes with all resources necessary to carry out her duties.
They've also just said it explicitly.
They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections quite candidly goes up as the voting populace goes down.
Voter ID, which is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state of Pennsylvania. Done.
We want to do everything we can to help our side, and sometimes we think that's voter ID, sometimes we think that's longer lines, whatever it may be.
Then I found out the real reason for the law.
The law is going to kick the Democrats in the butt.
Texas AG says Trump would have lost state if it hadn't blocked mail-in ballot applications being sent out.
He had things, levels of voting that if you ever agreed to it, you'd never have a Republican elected in this country again.
If you've ever listened to a Trump rally, or if you've been following the January 6th hearings, by the end of his presidency, he was just pushing for policies that benefited him. Not the country, not even his party, just like him specifically. That said, I do want to be clear, this is not a Trump problem. This does not end with Trump being removed from power, because right now, the most prominent parts of the Republican Party are campaigning on this life or death situation where they, whoever they is, the Democrats, the transes, the elites with parentheses around it, they are coming for you and they just want the world to burn. This is what we're up against right now. And by we, I don't mean the left. I mean anyone with any sort of investment in democracy or liberty or equality. We have this party that actively works to keep people from voting. We have members of Congress saying in no uncertain terms that they want to kill people with whom they politically disagree. Tucker Carlson is the biggest cable news host in the history of television, and he uses his platform to spread white genocide conspiracy theories.
You've heard a lot about the Great Replacement theory recently. It's everywhere in the last 2 days, and we're still not sure exactly what it is. This policy is called the Great Replacement, the replacement of legacy Americans with more obedient people from faraway countries. We can't replace them! These people are lunatics.
I say this not to cause doomerism, but because when the opposition is working this hard, we cannot, in response, take the stance of, oh, I just don't watch the news anymore, it's too depressing. There are definitely historical parallels to be drawn here, and maybe I'll talk about those in the future, but for today, I'm just gonna say, sitting back and turning a blind eye helps exactly no one. I wish I could make a video reassuring people that things will be okay, but I can't do that. What I can do is say that we are, right now, still in a position where we have the potential to make things okay. Work from the ground up, campaign for local representatives, get involved with political orgs, vote. And yeah, when it comes to things like this, it's obviously not enough to just vote blue no matter who. Count votes. Contact your senators, make them take a firm stance on things like Roe v. Wade and the filibuster. If they can't commit to a position, call them. You think you're being annoying? Their job is to represent you. Fuck them. Don't fuck them. Yes, most politicians are disingenuous. Use that to your advantage. They prioritize getting reelected over their own principles a lot of the time. Let them know, and have your friends let them know, that you won't vote for them if they don't support X, Y, and Z policies. But let them know that before the election, not during. You cannot influence politicians exclusively by not voting for them. The clock is clicking. The clock is clicking. The clock is ticking close to midnight, my friends. Somehow we've let Republicans claim to be the party of family and personal responsibility and the working class, which I don't know how we did that or how they did that, given that every one of their policy positions belies those labels. It's just kind of rich hearing cries of save the children from the party that overwhelmingly voted against emergency funding for the formula shortage, voted against funding for postpartum care, voted against child tax credits, is moving to abolish child protective services, separates families at the border, cut funding funding for WIC and for schools serving lunches to low-income students, has multiple members that are facing charges of endangering minors, and this is all going on in the country with the highest maternal and infant mortality rate in the developed world, while they fight against affordable and accessible healthcare for their constituents. And you know what? Because it's 4th of July, I'll say it. I love America. What does that mean? I don't know. Like the landmass, I feel the same about this landmass as any other landmass, and I definitely don't have unconditional love for the American government, but the country is definitely anomalous in a lot of ways and has a lot of potential. Like, the United States is among the most culturally heterogeneous countries in the world, and heterogeneity leads to diversity of ideas, which is a net benefit toward art and technology and innovation and social change, and there's just so much good that could be done. But because of the increasingly uneven distribution of wealth and our stunning lack of economic mobility and lack of paid sick or family leave and just generally like the instability of having a job, which, by the way, the fact that your healthcare is linked to having a job is insane. When you see that someone or something that you love is being self-destructive and not allowing themselves to flourish the way that they could, you step in, because democracy can't fend for itself. Part of the reason that I haven't been making a lot of videos lately is because it does feel increasingly hopeless. And it's like, what? I'm gonna rally the people to turn this country around with a YouTube video? But, you know, we've prevailed from worse circumstances. Our predecessors died at 35 from black lung and they worked themselves to death, but they picketed and they went on strike, and now we get weekends. So, I mean, I don't know. Better things are necessary and possible. It doesn't have to be like this. One person, practically literally speaking, can't make a difference. But lots of ones, we actually can. So let's do that. Thanks. Oh, God. Please vote.